Well, hello again. It's been a nice sunny day so far. Fields of flowers all coming out. Makes it look like my yard's got a ton of snow. The other side is even heavier with this. It just looks really good. Everything's white. I love this time of year. Gets me all pumped up. So let's go out in the shop and get one more item that needs some restoration done to it. It's R-46 Hallicrafters. I don't know what it goes to. I don't even know where I got it at, but it's awfully, boy, I'll tell you what, that's some pitted rust there. I'm probably going to have to put some body filler in that, smooth it over. That is really bad off. Anyway, I've got it hooked up. The speaker's okay as far as, you know, physical looks. I don't see any breaks or any of that stuff. Nothing's burned up in it or anything. Let's see if it still works. It was working at one time, but I found out something. It's a 500 ohm speaker. I did not know that. I think I've been using it as an 8 ohm. That could be why I'm not getting any sound out of that SX43. It may be operational all along and I just didn't know it. Anyway, I can't remember. I just can't. Let's see what happens here. Okay, she's working. Here's a little closer look at it. I got it in the house now and tore it apart. God, that is some deep rust. Kind of reminds me of working on the Thunderbird. But the first thing we're going to do is get rid of this stupid cord. It's all shot to pieces anyway. Not much. Looks like it's had some rats chewing on it. We'll put something new on there. This was the color of the original speaker. I'm trying to determine whether that's white or what that is. It looks white to me, or kind of a maybe a vanilla color. I'm gonna have to look around for that kind of paint. I'm just going to paint this. It's in perfect shape. It's just dirty. That's all. And if I try to clean it, it'll tear it all to pieces. Also, we did have a hole in the speaker. Check that out. It looks like somebody jammed a pencil through it at one time. Couldn't even see it because the bar was in the way. I still can't see it. Where's it at? Oh, we're way down in here. This speaker was originally owned by a call sign, a ham radio operator. There's 100 different ways to repair speakers. I've seen all sorts of things. The first thing you have to do, regardless of what method you use ultimately to fix it, is you got to try to keep as much of the structure as you can and then put the structure back together before you do anything else. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alright, using my finger on the back side and the front side, I was able to push it down to where it was originally. Now we'll just take a little bit of this stuff here and put over there. Put over there, and that'll reform it, get it back to the way it was a little bit. And just let it dry there like that, okay? And now I'm going to do the same thing to these cracks around here and here. And it seems to me I had another crack over here. I think I got another one right there. Wherever I find a crack, I'm going to do the same thing to it. Then we take the dryer cloth and put over the top, and you get a double repair that way. And as you can see, I've got pretty much all of this back. This here wants to be a little bit stubborn. I'll probably hold it with my finger, try to get some in the crack there to where it'll hold itself. I may or may not do it, I don't know. Well, all of the pieces have been cut and, you know, placed over where they're supposed to go. I don't know if I'm going to have enough liquid tape, though. I may have to make a trip downtown. I think I'll do the big one first. Well, as usual, that takes care of that. That dryer cloth, you can't rip it or tear it, and it makes a really, really strong speaker area where it was broken. It won't break there again, guaranteed. However you decide to repair your speaker when you see cracks like that, always get all the cracks, because a tiny little crack, when that speaker starts vibrating, will turn into a very large crack in short order. I decided to just start out this mess by just wire brushing and getting as much loose rust off as I can. This poor old thing has had a rough life in this area. I'm just kind of glad, I'm happy that the rust was only confined to here and none over here. I don't know why it could have been like that. Kind of strange. It goes all the way down to this. I don't know, it was like somebody set something on it and it leaked through and it just sat there. The rust is gone, however the surface is not smooth like it's supposed to be, like this, see? You come over to this part, it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be, and I've been trying to knock it down with this sponge thing, and I've done a pretty good job. However, I'm getting tired of that. It's time to bring out the big guns. My Bosch, I think it's a random orbital sander, I can't remember the exact name of it. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to sand that baby down. I'm going to crank this thing down to about a 5, I guess. Maybe a 5 or a 4. And I'm going to go ahead and start. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just do a little bit right now. Seems to be doing pretty good. That's nice and smooth already. I'm using 600 grit paper. It's doing a pretty good job, but it's going to take a long time. I'm going to have to go up to like a 320 grit. My son asked me, I don't know, the Christmas before this last one, he said, "What do you want for Christmas?" I said, "Well, I don't really need anything. I've got everything." He said, come up with something." So I said, "Okay, get me this sander." So he went ahead and bought the sander, and he bought me an entire box of discs, all different flavors. So we're going to be using these, hopefully, on one of our cars pretty soon. I don't know. It depends how much time I have. These radios, I've got to get these radios out. I've got to get these speakers out. I've got to get this crap done so I can clear my mind and work on the stuff that is also waiting. So anyway, this thing I told him, I said, I want a Velcro setup where, these things just stick on with Velcro. I said, "Dad, I like." And he said, "Well, no problem. I can take care of that." So this is so easy to change. If you use both hands, I'm using one hand here. It's kind of rough, but that's all it takes to change it. And it works great. Now, the key to these things, to you young guys who have never used one of these, the key, don't press down on them. If you ever get one, don't press down on anything. "Well, I'll just grind that stuff off." It doesn't work that way. Let the machine do the work. Just kind of use your hand on it, a little bit of slight downward pressure, not much, just to make sure it doesn't take off on you. Let the machine do the work, not you. If you want to do the work, then get yourself a sponge and do it yourself. I'm discovering that there's rust underneath all of this paint. The further I go, the more rust I get. And so I'm at 120 grit right now, which is pretty coarse. I'm going to have to knock as much of this off as I can, or I'll be here all day. I prefer not to do that. It's pretty chilly out here. Well, we've pretty much run out of rust, but we've gone this far, so let's just go for the gusto. Okay, that's a lot better. Now what I'm going to do is take some alcohol. We're going to clean the entire top with alcohol. Get all that crap off there, especially in this area over here where I'm going to put this glazing compound there. Just going to put it on with the old paddle, the old spatula, and we're going to let it dry. Then sand it down a little bit and see what she looks like. It'll take a couple of wipe downs with alcohol. There's quite a bit of stuff on there, so you don't even see it until you wipe it down. Well, I'll tell you what, there's still a couple of rust spots here, and here, and a couple of light here, and I don't want to fill over them with that glazing compound. We're going to go ahead and try a little more navel jelly on it. I like to get it all out. I like to have it as clean as it is right here. See, this was all rust at one time too, but I think we can, no sense in quitting now. Let's keep going. Now this navel jelly works better if it's in a warmer temperature. So once I spread this around, I'll go ahead and take it in and put it in the house where I don't have to smell it or anything, of course. I'll go ahead and soak this stuff really good for at least maybe 5 to 6 hours. I'm no rush to get this done. I want this done righteous. Gotta be righteous. By the way, these spots you see here, they're weld marks. They welded a bracket all the way across. That one right there, and they sunk the metal in, so it's a little bit of paint and primer sunk in a little bit there. Okay, I think that's going to do it. Well, as you can see, all the rust is finally gone. It took 7 hours of soaking in that navel jelly. And I just let it soak, and then finally washed it off and it's all gone. I just went over the entire thing with alcohol. It's nice and clean all the way around, top, bottom, everything. So what we're going to do now is take some of this glazing compound and this little spatula, and we're going to just work in a little bit of this glazing compound in there to kind of help it get level. Then we're going to let it sit for a while. And anywhere else where there might be a pit or anything, I don't see anything. There may be one or two somewhere. Now there's one right there I could probably fill in. You know, just lay it in there and then sand it down later on. I'll show it to you after everything's dry. I don't know, maybe I ought to show you how it goes on. Okay, we just take a little bit out of the tube, put it on the edge of the scraper or the spatula, whatever you want to call it. Just smush it down in there. Try to go in one direction if you can. And then let me see, there's a spot here, it's got to be done. It gets a lot thinner as we go around. We don't need quite as much filler, but it sands easy. It dries fast and it sands easy, but it's pretty chilly out here today, so I need to get back in the house. This stuff, boy, I tell you what, it just is the greatest filler. It's so easy to put on, so easy to sand. It didn't take but about 10 seconds to do that. I'm going to finish this all up and get it nice and smooth. I did along the side here a little bit. I did a couple of spots, one there and another one down here. And then hopefully I'll be able to get a layer of paint on it before the end of the day here. As I showed with the Thunderbird restoration we're doing, which we'll eventually get back to, I hope. Keep your sponge flat. Don't be pushing down on it, flexing it or anything. Let the flat surface of the sponge sandpaper block do the work. Look how long it didn't hardly take any time at all. No pressure. You don't need to have pressure. I've got two different courses. This one here, it's advisable to stay with the not so coarse. Okay, and every once in a while, clean it up, get that stuff off of there, then go back to doing it. It'll be nice and flat when you're done. Nice and flat. Don't overly do it. Okay. Take your time too. I'm ready to rock and roll on this baby here. Okay, first I'm going to put the filler and sander in this area right here, so if there are some tiny pits, this will hopefully fill them in. Now keep in mind that glazing compound can be put over the top of primer. It says right on the tube. You can, you sand it down a little bit. Let's say you see a bump or something after you spray it. You can sand it down, fill it. You just smooth it down, and fill it, and sand it down again until it's nice and level. So I want to get to this top being all bare. I may not get to do it all tonight because I want this thing here on top covered before I put it in. See, there's some tiny little pits right there. Can you see them? I don't know if you can see them. Very small. Okay, they show up when you spray, but boy, for the most part, compared to what we had, this is great. Look at that. Hardly any at all. But they're there. Alright, now I'm going to go around and hit the spots that need it. I'm not going to prime the entire cabinet. It's not needed. Just in the places where I sanded a little more than others. And it's going to be in pretty good shape. After the paint dried, you can see all the pinholes that were still there. Very tiny holes, but you know, it'll show up if you paint it. So you need to fill them again. And then I'll sand all this down again. And if I see any more pinholes, I'll do it again. I'll keep doing it until the pinholes are gone. So when I lay on a coat of paint, it'll look nice and smooth. Or as smooth as I can get it, okay? There's nothing perfect about the way I do things. Well, I think that should take care of it. If not, well, we'll fill it again, you know. I'm just going over with the fine. I have a coarse, or actually a medium, and a fine foam rubber. I usually don't use these for anything, but they work real good when you're sanding down this glazing compound. Keeps things flat, you know. You don't have to worry about any ripples and, you know, low spots and stuff like that for the most part. Well, let's clean it up and spray it with primer again and see what we get. Alright, let's see what happens. I'm going to use this old flat blackened primer again, and then I'll go ahead and put the clear on later. Right now I just want to set just a light coat just to see what happens. I think this is going to turn out pretty good. Stay away from it, about a foot if possible. Put an initial coat. Just a light coat to cover it all. So far so good. Well, I had to make a decision on what color I wanted to go with on the grill cloth. And the more I thought about it, I said, well, I'm just going to go with the original color. I don't like the original color. I thought it was a dumb move for them to make it that color, but you know, it is what it is, okay? So I went down to Lowe's and I looked around and I found a color that's pretty darn close to it. About as close as I'm going to get. It's kind of a manila color. Interesting thing, they've got these new nozzles now. It's got 3 positions, 3 or 4. On the back it tells you, let me see, get a little focus here. Come on, people. It has high output on number 1, standard on number 2, low output on 3. It's got 5 positions. How about that? Vertical fan on 4 and a horizontal fan on 5. I'll tell you what, I don't have a lot of faith in this setup. So all I'm going to do is mist this on. I mean, that's all I can do, because this is a, let me show you, this again is a bunch of holes. And you don't want to clog your holes. No, you don't. Don't do that. You clog them up. I'm not sure how it would affect the sound, but I'm sure it would have some effect. So you got to stand back a long ways and just kind of mist it on like that. Might have to get a little closer. Just kind of mist it on like that, yeah. After spraying this thing, it looked pretty good, but in some areas it was not taking the paint. It was so dark and everything, it was just absorbing it, leaving the dark behind. It's not too bad on the H because it'll be covered up on the letter on the, you know, the metal box itself. But down here it'll show, and maybe some over here. So what do? Well, I took some clear last night before I went to bed, and I came out and I sprayed 2 coats of clear enamel on there. The idea was to seal all this to where it can't absorb it. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit it with another shot. And I changed the nozzle, but they got these nozzles. I changed my mind about this. This does pretty good. I went to number 3, I think it is. Yeah, I went to number 3, which was low output. Well, it's a little lighter, but that's going to be about as good as it can get. I don't want to clog these holes up, so we're just going to have to live with it. Of course, it looks a whole lot better than it used to, and once it gets in the case, a lot of this will be covered up, so we'll see some of it down here. Barely see some on this edge here, and I think that'll be about it. Well, we've got our decals on. I'm getting ready to hit it with some clear to kind of make them disappear. It is time to work on the speaker a little bit. Right now I'm just putting a very light coat of primer, and then I have to take off the tape and then put a little bit more heavy on. I just put a nice misty coat on. Covers real good. This I decided to use this rusty metal primer stuff primarily because I'm out of gray. Speaker basket looks pretty good, but I think it's a little bit too shiny. I think I'll take some of this clear satin and go ahead and put on it. I don't want it to look like plastic toy inside the box. Yeah, that's a whole lot better. Now it looks more like a metal instead of some plastic thing, you know. Well, I think we're about done with this project here. I put a new speaker wire on it. Of course, it needed it bad. Looks pretty nice in there. Everything's clean and painted. All the holes are fixed in the speaker. Let's take a look at the front. Well, that turned out better than I thought. About the only place you can see any blemishes in here is right here. The rest is covered up. That had the bad spots. I think she looks pretty darn good compared to what we had when we started. Anyway, it's preserved for hopefully a future generation, at least one generation. By the way, one more thing about this speaker. It's a 500 ohm speaker, and I have determined that there's still more work to be done on the Hallicrafters SX43 that we just finished. I thought it was finished, but I kept looking at it and I said, nah, we got more work to do. We got one more video to do on that series, and when I'm done getting it all done the way I want it, I'm going to go ahead and hook up this speaker to it. So you'll see this speaker again in the SX43 video that'll be forthcoming. Now once we finish with that SX43, we got another big boat anchor to get up on the desk, on the bench. So you'll see this again, like I said, in the closeout video, hopefully, of the SX43. So until next time, this is John.